to really just come off the cuff and call the car buddy and how you doing, pal, you know, and pet it like that, you know, and refer to it almost like the Lone Ranger did to his horse.
Yes.
And
were those the images you had in your mind?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there were days that I felt like I was going to whistle and Kit would go, you know, and come in. Because it was the same thing.
Sure.
Kit is like Trigger, the same thing. And the more relaxed I got, the more my sense of humor would just come out, because I was trying to impress the crew, you know. I wanted to be loved by these guys, you know. Sure. And once I got their love, and then back and forth, it started to jive real fast, and everyone in the beginning was using the car as, hey, look at our new show. We have an incredible car. It talks, it flies, it jumps, and who cares about the guy who drives it? Who needs him, right? But that was okay, and I went along with that. And I put up with all the press in the beginning. I mean, the press just, you know, it was terrible, you know? And I mean, when Edward Mohair and I went for our first interviews, and how do you feel about being in a stupid show with a car that talks? And everyone would go, well, and I'd say, wait, it's okay, you know? We just want to get through this first year, but I guarantee you we'll be back and it'll be successful. And the second year, when I went back to meet all those interviewers, was probably the greatest moment of my life, because as we came back and I said, I told you so, and it's turned, Knight Rider is slowly changing. It's still not the show that I have in my mind.
Do you think it ever will be?
No, no.
So there's
I'm not
another...
the one who, I don't run NBC and I don't run the studio, you know. They throw me out of 22 episodes, maybe 3 or 4 that I really like. Mm-hmm. And there's 2 that are real personal to me that I really like. And, but I got to go with what they say. Right now the show is successful, so they must know something.
Can't argue with success.
No.
But it also brings you to a point in your career where you can make some other decisions. I mean, you've done a made-for-television movie with Joan Collins, and so the exposure and the connections that you make through something like this, and I'm sure you enjoy it as well, too, even though you say they're a couple. But sometimes, I guess, having a couple is better than not having any at all.
It's the world's greatest job.
Yeah.
The world's greatest job. It's long hours. There's no reason to complain. That's why I always wonder about these actors turning into you-know-whats when they become famous, because I think that you have more to thankful for when you get up there, because it opens up so many doors. Knight Rider opened up the doors to Cartier Fair, and all I've wanted to do in features or in Movie of the Weeks was to play a character similar to Cary Grant type 50s movies. Mm-hmm. And that's what Cartier Fair, well, we didn't really totally achieve it, but we were pretty close for Movie of the Week and shooting it in 20 days. But it opened that door. That door's opened the door to the feature. Knight Rider opened the door. I started off as a singer. My wife started off as a singer. I said, hey, let me go undercover as a rock star. We'll get 4 original songs, and we'll go out there and rehearse our butts off and do the best we can, and we'll get an album deal out of this. I'm like, yeah, you're nuts. I got an album deal out of it. And respect, too, as a singer, you know, as opposed to just, you know, getting up there and trying to hack it. So it's opened up all those doors. So I will probably stay with Knight Rider as long as it's around, but I'll continue to fight for the quality of the show. And
you don't mind speaking your mind when it comes to, I mean, one of the things, the special effects that Kit does, you've been very open about telling members of the press exactly how it's done.
No, I haven't.
No, you haven't?
No,
That's what I read.
I've told a couple little things, you know, and I always remember what I do tell, because I don't give away the total secrets.
Just a little bit of the secret.
Yeah.
But not enough to destroy the image in viewers' minds as far as the car is concerned.
No, I mean, it's obvious when, you know, when a child asks me, does the car really talk? I change my story to whatever that child at that point really needs to hear if he's 3 years old.
You say yes.
Yeah, or if the child is sick or whatever, terminally ill, what's another situation. Whatever you know, I change it to whatever happens. But, you know, I change it all the time. No one really, I mean, but I never give away the true story.
I know that you've worked with kids who've been terminally ill, and there was one instance in particular with an organization called Dream Makers, where a little boy who was terminally ill, his name was Randy, he wanted to meet you, and he was able to meet you, and it was perhaps the most important thing that happened to him in his short life. We have to take a commercial message, but as soon as we return, I'd like to talk about that day that you spent with Randy and the kind of work that you do with kids and what really motivates you to do it. We'll be back right after these words. They arranged for Randy to meet you, and it meant so much to him. You were able to spend some time with him. Tell me about the day that you spent with him and how you were able. It has to be difficult to talk to a young person that you know is terminally ill.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's probably a hell of a lot more difficult for Randy because he's not, you know, he's no longer here.
Yes.
He didn't know he was dying, but I mean, yeah, I think he knew, you know.
Even though no one had told him.
Well, what he was 16 years old, and he was real tall and thin like me. And he looked healthy. And, you know, he came to the set with his mom and dad, and we took him out, and I went to the crew, and we'd had a couple other kids like Randy come to the crew, and I told the crew, I said, hey, when I say we have a special guest here, it means that this child will not be with us on this earth very long, and I want no profanity, and I want the best of behavior, and I want gifts and love and everything. Well, in the beginning, the crew, you know, God, you know, I bring these kids on, they didn't know how to deal with it. So this Randy comes out, and I have a special friend here, Randy, and Randy's like bouncing around like this, and everybody's coming to me saying, this kid's great. They all fell in love with him. And I finally told his parents, I said, this kid looks healthy. And then it turns out that they had taken him off for chemotherapy and blood transfusion just for the trip. And so 6 weeks later, Randy died. So it was great. And the sound guy, you know, put the tape together and gave him the tape, and the property guys came in and gave him the Knight Rider license plates, and the mechanic came up, you know, and said, I love you. Woo! It was heavy. He says, I love you. I didn't even know the mechanic. Was only on the show for about 8 or 9 months. He's now become one of my best friends, you know, I love you. And the word love was floating around, and it was really heavy. He stayed 2 days, you know, everybody fell in love. And when we left, I had the guy go out and, you know, I told one of the drivers, you know, go out and get him a jacket, Knight Rider jacket. That, you know, each year I'd give the crew Christmas presents and vice versa, and one is a Knight Rider jacket. So we had him a jacket and a hat and the whole way. This kid had everything, and it was our crew is really great. I mean, it's an unbelievable experience. If you ever come out again, you bring your kids. It's unbelievable. It's nothing like you've ever seen it. All family. We all spend time together off the set, you know, and everybody's real proud of Knight Rider because nobody expected us to make it. So we got, you know, hey, you know.
Yes.
And so when Randy came out, we would all talk about one man can make a difference, and every shot we're in is like this and straight ahead, you know, and God bless, you know, there's a reason for all this. And
I know
Randy left, yeah.
Yeah, I know it was very important to him because when he was told that he was going to die, he requested that he be buried in the jacket and the cap that you had given him. And on his tombstone, because you kept telling him one man can make a difference, and I know that you even sent the family a wreath that said, one man can make a difference, and Randy was that man.
Yeah.
And they put that on his tombstone.
Interesting note to that I've never said before. All the press turned out that day at his funeral, waiting for the Knight Rider to show up, which was a little strange.
Yes.
You know, kind of like the weird, just kind of amidst all the beauty of what had happened, still a little bit of the Hollywood, you know, on it, which
Yes.
was real strange. But no, we got a great letter from his parents, you know, they showed us the picture of Randy, which was, we wrapped real early that day because I went and showed it to the crew, and I read the picture, you know, and that Randy had said to his family about oh, God, an hour or so before he died, the thing that the Knight Rider crew taught me that there was more to life than pain. So we really didn't know how much pain this kid was in. So it really kind of opened up our eyes to complaining about 14-hour days or lousy scripts or
Sure.
or
you can
anything.
put things into perspective.
Well, since Randy, there's been so many others, you know, so many others.
You know, one thing that I'd read, that when you started doing Knight Rider and you realized the way kids were attracted to you, that you really said, you know, they're holding me up as a role model, and I want to be sure that I'm worthy of being that role model for them. How much did it change your life, knowing that you had that kind of responsibility?
I didn't want it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I didn't want it. That's, you know, I came off a pretty fun life, you know, and not your model American, but when Knight Rider and everything you're saying about the responsibility came in, you know, I would go home and say, now, you really want to be this good, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then I realized, like today, with all those pictures, that I think one of the reasons, I believe in God, and I think one of the reasons that I got it is because he said, here's a hat. You can wear the hat well, and your calling is to help these kids, or your calling is to be a hero to these guys. And you mess it up, and we'll take that hat away.
So that's your responsibility?
Yeah, and you know,
it's an obligation.
it's a big hat.
Yeah.
It's a big hat. I want to take it off sometimes, but it's a hat that I'm real proud of, you
Mm-hmm.
know, as long as I wear it.
And what about the future? We talked just a little bit about wanting to do features. You're obviously getting ready to do a feature now. Is that true?
Yeah.
Yeah?
You're waiting on the script.
Yes, waiting on the script.
Yeah.
Do you have any idea what the character's going to be like?
Hopefully in the same vein as Cartier Affair, the producer Al Ruddy, we're negotiating with on the feature right now, wants to do it in the vein of Cartier Affair. Now, if the script is not good, I don't think he'll buy it. If we don't find the right one, I don't think I'll do a feature this year. I'd rather hold off and instead of doing, you know, Knight Rider and the Bandit, which is, there's nothing wrong with that. There's a lot of bucks there, but, you know, I'd like to go someplace with Cartier Affair. Hopefully we show that there's another side to David Hasselhoff besides, how you doing, buddy? You know, and run fast, jump high, you know. So we'll see what happens. If that doesn't happen, I'll do some rock and roll or do movie of the week.
Is it important for you to be able to do all of them as far as keeping interested in what
Sure.
it is you're doing?
I get bored real fast.
Yes.
Yeah.
How was your attention span as
Terrible.
a kid? Bad?
Oh, terrible. You're kidding.
Is it any better today?
No.
No.
I never studied in school. All I wanted to do was plays, you know, plays. I was involved in theater since I was 7 years old.
When you saw Rumpelstiltskin,
Jesus.
right?
You're getting your homework, yeah. That's
Oh,
right.
See, I didn't always do my homework when I was in school either, and
Yeah.
I'm paying for it now. I have to do twice as much.
Well, you kids at home should do your homework.
That's true.
That's right.
So what happened when you saw that play? Something just clicked inside of you and you said, this is what I want to do?
Yeah, exactly. I just said, I want to try this. And when I got up on stage, I realized that I was less inhibited on stage than I was in real life. And really up until about 5 years ago, I was still really shy. You know, now with Knight Rider and The Young and the Restless and, you know, constantly doing interviews and having to be on when you're not on stage, and, you know, it's brought me out. But stage it's great when you're a kid. That's why I encourage all the kids to get started when they're young, because their inhibitions are non-existent, you know. They'll go out there and have a ball and can fall on their face and be embarrassed and laugh about it and come back, you know, come back up. You're in your acting class, boy, you see these people come out and want to be actors, and and part of the process in these acting classes, they tear you down, you know. And when you're on stage, you realize everyone's laughing at you and stuff. Whew, it's hard to take.
Story. You tell the story, and then I'll tell you if it was the same one I read.
Well, I was
Because how tall are you?
6'4". I was 6'1" in the 8th grade. I was a head rebounder in all of Georgia in the 8th grade, and it was only because I couldn't get the ball in the hoop. I kept catching it, going shooting again, shooting again, shooting again. I was terrible. And then we moved from Atlanta, Georgia to Chicago, Illinois, and I walk in, I got red socks and a red sweater and tassels on my shoes. And I'd come from a Catholic military school to this big public school, and I'm Catholic. And I'm going, and it was strange going into a public school because in Catholicism, they're pretty strict, if you're not Catholic, bad news after you die.
In public schools?
Yeah, and so in public
Yes.
school, and I said, God, man, these kids are okay, and
They're not as bad as I was led to believe.
Are they really all going to go to purgatory, and so...
I'm only laughing because I'm Catholic.
You know what I'm saying?
I went through this.
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
I was like, Mom, these guys are great. And so they said, we want you to audition for, or try out for the basketball team. I said, I can't play basketball. He said, but you're the tallest kid in the school. I said, I can't play basketball. I'm an actor. And they said, well, please try out. You're the tallest kid we've ever seen. So I tried out, and they said, you're right. You can't play basketball. You're an actor. And I got the lead in the play. I remember Mama right away.
Really?
Oh, yeah, but I didn't make any friends. I mean,
Why?
What hated me? This kid comes in with red socks on, you know, and
New kid in town and comes in and gets the lead in the play.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you have a difficult time because of that, because of your interest in theater when a lot of other kids were interested in sports?
No, I was always interested in sports. I got the main thing I got in high school was you got the part because of your looks, and that's a thing that a lot of people don't usually talk about, but it's pretty evident in high school and college. You got the look, you got, all-American, tall, nice-looking guy. That's why you got it,
But don't you think that happens even out of high school and college once you get
Sure
into
it does,
the
but people don't
professional
realize
world?
that, underneath of it all, you're still a kid. You're still a person. Or, it goes the other way. You go into a hospital and you see a burn kid who looks like hamburger, and people are going, but underneath that facade, there's still a person. And it's the same way when relating to a gorgeous woman, sometimes you're so awed by her beauty, you don't know how to talk to her, and it affects them too, because why can't, I was talking to a girl the other day who was working on Mike Hammer, and they stuffed her with huge mahungas, and she says, people relate to me different when you have huge ho-hos, She said it was hilarious, because she didn't have any, and then she came in and nobody knew her, and she said, wow, it was weird, because everyone was like talking to,
Not looking in her eyes.
Yes.
Yes. But doesn't that bother you sometimes as far as looks are concerned? I mean, I've heard interviews with people where I think there's even a club about people who are too beautiful and how it's difficult for them to relate with other people because immediately people make certain decisions about them because they're attractive. That sounds a little strange to me too. But I mean, sometimes with women, if they're very, very attractive and beautiful, some people take for granted that therefore they're not very smart, because how could you have all of that beauty and brains as well?
Well, also I think goes to personalities too. A lot of people will think that actors are either, stuck up or jerks because they're shy, and because they're not outgoing, There's a lot of people that I know that get that rap, but they're just real afraid of people on the outside. And I think it's the same thing with a physical thing.
When you get nervous or shy, and you said you really were up until about 5 years ago, but you've done an awful lot of public appearances, and then that does help you become more outgoing because you get more used to it. But how do you react when you get nervous?
Just like this interview, I talk a lot.
When you get shy, you talk a lot?
Yeah, my first interviews on Merv Griffin, boy, I never got a word in. Well, what's it like being on a sub? Well, Merv, I was born, and it just went on and on and on and on and on and on until finally, I finally said, wait a second, slow down. Yeah, just real hyper.
Is that because you want to please?
Nah, I just am afraid that if my sentence before was a stupid sentence, maybe I can clear it up with the next one.
Yeah, you worry about that?
Yeah, you always do. I mean, yeah, it's funny, but, now, once you're accepted, once Knight Rider's a hit, suddenly they're calling for you, it puts a whole different trip in your head. They're calling for you. Whoa, great. So it's 100% more confidence than do you think I can get on Merv this week? What do you think? I don't know. You're big enough, you know, I don't know. What do you think, you know? And then, you know, you get on there. Okay, now you're on Merv. Now don't mess up. You're on Merv, you know? And then you get on Merv and you're going, I'm on Merv. Oh, God, I'm on Merv. Or like Johnny Carson, you know? Backstage, Joan Rivers. I said, this woman's going to cut me up. And I'm backstage and I went, what is it? What am I nervous about? This is Dream 47B. Go out and have a ball, you know? And
So?
I did.
You did.
Once they called and said they wanted me for the show,
Did she cut you up?
No, I kept talking.
That can be a defensive measure at times,
Especially with Joan.
Right?
Yeah.
But it's so funny. Sometimes people wish for something their whole lives, or they have a dream, and then they finally get it, as you were just saying. I mean, that was something you dreamed about for a long time, and you were almost to the point of not enjoying it.
Mm-hmm.
How do you overcome that? How do you learn to say, hey, wait a minute, you know, this is not basically reality. This is dream number 47. I'm going to go out there and have a great time.
It's not reality.
Yeah? It really isn't?
I'm wearing makeup.
Yeah?
Is that reality? I mean,
Well,
I
in
took a
this
bath
town,
in
it
my
might-
motorhome, so I look nice tonight, you know, but I don't even have a belt on, you know. Well, this is reality. I mean, no, it's not reality. It's, you know, it's Halloween. Acting is Halloween. I never go out on Halloween. I said, what do I want to go out on Halloween for? I dress up every day, you know, for work, you know. It's Halloween.
And when you have the opportunity to be away from work, you and your wife, you know, what are the things that are important to you?
Our dogs,
Yeah?
spending time together, doing nothing, realizing, you know what's real important? Is making love.
I would imagine a lot of people would agree with you on that.
Yeah, but I mean, when you're in a business where she's working on a soap opera and you're working on this, and all of a sudden, you know, the reason you're initially attracted in the beginning is physical and then the passion, and then what's real important is keeping that passion. And it's real easy for it to go out the window when you both have 14-hour days. And then when you get back together, to go back and renew that relationship, it doesn't feel like you're just married and just playing house, you know. So what we do in our off time is we stay home and spend time with our animals and just be together. Take the phones off the hook or go to Maui. Because when we go out, it almost broke us up in the beginning because of the fans, you know. It got a little heavy when the women would ask Catherine for a pen, you know. Oh, he's so gorgeous, can I have a pen? And she was going, I'm going to kill this woman in 9 seconds. You know, I'd be signing, well, what's your name? And she'd be behind the girl head going, you know.
That has to be difficult.
Well, now it's changed because she's on Capitol
Right.
Soap, you know, so she gets her own group of people, which is real big now.
Interestingly enough, there was the time when the two of you broke up because you were gone so much of the time.
Yeah.
And she put her foot down and finally said, look, I'm not going to live like this. You have to allow some time for me. And
She
you-
lifted her foot up and went, is what she did.
Yeah, she took off. And then I read someplace where you took a couple of weeks to figure out exactly where you wanted to go with the relationship and finally said, wait a minute, this is an important relationship.
Well, what happened was I went to South Africa, and I was like Michael Jackson in popularity there for about 3 weeks. It was crazy. And I had a presidential suite in Johannesburg you could play tennis in. And I would literally had 50,000 people turn out the last day for a parade, and they, you know, would try to get in the car and turn cars over. It was crazy. And when I get to the suite, with all this, I closed the door, and all of a sudden it was, I said, wow, man, you made it. Got lots of money. All these people out there love you, but you are alone. And it was so strange that I was on that phone saying, come over, you know, come on over, you know, you don't have to, you know, hassle with the fans. You can just stay in the hotel room, you know, and I'll get you whatever you want, you know, come on, you know. And I realized that it's not reality, like we were talking about before.
Sure.
You know, what's real is coming home and saying, how was your day? Fine. How was your day? Well, I like the fans, 1,500, you know, I signed some autographs, you know. Oh, yeah, you know, and then, you know, on the special days where we talk about the children who come to visit. it's the kids, you know, or I'll look at her scenes or stuff, you know, but basically when we get home, it's see-spot run, you know, make the coffee.
It's pretty difficult when you go from the kind of adulation that you were speaking about to then realizing when you get really down to basics, you are alone unless you have someone else in your life that is very important to you and that you're very important to them.
It was like, who are you going to call? You know, it's like when you're a kid, when you, I used to set up ramps. This is hilarious. I think back now to do jumps, and I'm like, kid. There was no fun doing that jump unless somebody was watching me. Or what the hell do I want to go out and do that for unless someone was, hey, Dad, look at this. If I came home and suddenly I had no one to call and say, guess what happened, you know? Yeah. And so if you don't have anybody to share it with and say you're not going to believe, you know, what happened today, you know, I got some freak came up or whatever, you know. Yeah, you know, you can share it with your parents, but if you don't have a person there on a one-to-one thing, it's real boring.
It seemed to me for a lot of people who have reached fame and who haven't been able to handle it well, that perhaps that's exactly where they found themselves alone, you know.
I think sometimes they alienate people, and, you know, it's just, I don't know. I think they bring it upon themselves. I know that I did with Catherine.
But you fixed it?
Yeah, it's getting better, too. I've been married 8 months, it's getting better.
Old married man. We have to take another time out. We'll do that. Stay with us.